In this video, I'll be showing you how to make a new lighthouse charm using the Rainbow Loom. So you want to have the pins in a staggered position so they're not in line with one another, and you want the arrows to be facing away from you. And for your colors, you will need 8 clear bands, but if you don't have clear bands, you can substitute black bands. And then you will need 6 yellow bands, and you will need 12 black bands. You're going to need 41 white bands and 21 red bands, and then finally you'll need 20 blue bands. So that's going to be for the ocean water, so whatever shade of blue you would like for that. So we're going to start with the clear bands, and you want to be placing 2 bands at once, so you're just taking 2 rubber bands and putting them together as if they were one band and placing them on the loom. So you're going to start in the center, and these 2 bands are going to go out to the left. And now I will take 2 more clear bands, and they are going from the center and out to the right. And now I'm going to take 2 yellow bands, and they are going to go from the center and move straight ahead. And so the next set of bands is going to be clear, and they are going to go on the outside rows. So I'm going to do one on the left, and then I'll place 2 more on the right. And then I'm going to take 2 more yellow bands, and they are going to go straight ahead. And so now I'm going to switch to the white bands, and I'm going to go up the length of 3 pins in all of the rows. So again, I'm always doing 2 bands at once. And I'm just going to work my way up the left-hand side here. And now I'll do the same thing in the center row. And then finally I'll do the same thing again on the right hand row. And now I am going to switch to the red, and again I am going to go up the length of 3 pins in all of the rows. And now I'm going to do the same thing for the right hand side. And now I'm going to switch back to the white, and again I'm going to go up the length of 3 pins in all of the rows. And now the right hand row. And now I want to place the blue bands at the bottom. These are going to be the ones that are going to be like the ocean at the bottom of the lighthouse. So I'm going to go on the left hand row. And again, I'm still using 2 bands. I'm just going to go to the very end. And then I'm going to do the same thing in the right hand row. And now at the very end, I'm going to place a cap band that I want to triple. So I'm taking a rubber band and placing it on my hook. I'm going to twist and put it back on, twist and put it back on. So you'll see 3 rubber bands on your hook. And I'm just going to place this on the very end pin on the left hand side. And then I'm going to repeat that again. And I'll do it on the right hand side. And now I'm going to place my cap bands that go across the loom to hold the 3 rows together. So where I have the white bands, I'm going to place white. So I'll go to this 4th pin up from the end of the loom is where I'm going to start. And it's going to stretch across from the left hand side to the right hand side and then also up. So it's going to make a triangle. And now I'll just go to the one that is below that. And so now I'll go to the next pin that's closest to me and I'll do another white. And now I'm going to switch to red. And now before I place the next band on, I want my lighthouse to get narrower at the top. So for the rest of these bands, I'm going to double them. So I'm just going to place it on my hook, twist, and put it back on. So there's 2 bands. I'm going to be doing that same pattern, but it's just going to be this doubled band. And it is going to make it a lot tighter. And now I'm going to do the same thing for the white bands that are going to go on. So I'm doubling it and just making that triangle, getting it to go over all 3 of those pins. And now at the top here, I'm going to do yellow bands that I'm going to double. And these are going to be a little bit of a different pattern. I'm going to go from the left hand side and stretch diagonally across to the right. And it's going to be a long stretch. I'm skipping the middle. And it's going to be a little tight since they are doubled. And now I'm going to take my other yellow band and double it. And I'm going to go to the end pin on the left, and I'm just going to do that long stretch up to the right. It's going to make a long X. Next, I'm going to place the black rubber bands that are going to make the part that goes around the top of the lighthouse. So I'm going to go on the left hand side to that 2nd pin. I'm taking 2 rubber bands at once. I want to make sure that these other bands on the pins are pushed down to the bottom so I have room to add this. And I'm just going to place them going up the loom. I'm going to do 2 sets. And now I want to place a cap band on the end of this pin. So I want it to be tripled. So I'm just going to do that on my hook. And I'm going to place it right on the top. And I'm going to repeat that same pattern for the other side. So I'm taking 2 bands starting on the 2nd pin from the end. And I'm going to go up the length of 2 pins. And now I'm going to place a tripled cap band on the end here. And now I am going to turn the loom around so that the arrows are facing towards me. And the first thing I'm going to do is loop these black rubber bands to get them out of the way. So I will start on the left here. I'm going to go down through. I want my hook to push back on these top 3 rubber bands. That is the cap band we just placed on. And I'm going to grab the 2 black bands that are underneath and pull them ahead. And now I'm going down through and getting the next 2 black bands. And now I want to place my thumb over top of this pin, and I'm going to pull these off, and they're going to go out to the left hand side. And now I will loop the bands on the right, so it's going to be the same thing. I'm going down through and getting the top 3 bands to go behind my hook. And I'm going to get the next 2 black rubber bands. And now I'll go back down through and get the next 2 black bands to move up. And now I'm going to place my thumb and I'll pull these off of the loom, and these are going to go out to the right. So they'll just stay like that. And now I'm going to go down to the bottom here and work on the waves. So I want to loop just the blue bands. So I am going down through the end on the left hand side. Again, I have that tripled cap band on top, so I'm pushing back on that, getting those behind my hook. I'm going to grab the bottom 2, going to hold this in place so it doesn't come off, and move those ahead, and then grab the next 2 blue ones. And now again I'm going to place my thumb over top of this pin. I'm going to pull these off, and this is going to go out to the left. And now I will do the same thing on the right hand side. So I'm getting those top 3 bands behind my hook, getting the bottom 2 to move ahead, and then the next 2. And again I'm placing my thumb over top, pulling these off and moving them out to the right. And so now I'm going to place the last of the blue bands on the loom, and they're going to follow the same pattern as the ones that we just put on, but instead of turning the loom around again, I'm just going to place them on with the arrows facing towards me. So I will start on this pin on the left, and I'm taking 2 bands and they're going to the pin below. And then I'm taking 2 more bands and they're going from that second pin down to the first. And then I have a cap band that I'm going to triple and place on that end pin. And now I'm going to repeat that pattern again on the right hand side. So I'm just taking 2 bands and working my way down. And now I am going to triple this band and place it on the end on the right. And so now I can loop these bands just like I did the first ones. So I'm going down through, getting the top 3 behind my hook and getting those bottom 2. I want to hold this in place with my thumb, the cap band, and moving them up. And now taking the next 2 up. And now I'm going to hold this with my thumb and pull these off, but I'm going to leave the end on my hook, and I'm going to slide these over to the pin in the center. And now I'm going to do the same thing on the right side. So I'm pushing back on the top 3, getting the bottom 2 to move up, and then going up again. And now I'm placing my thumb on this pin, getting these on my hook, and I'm moving them into that middle row. You have to make sure that all 3 of those bands are making it on, and push down. And so now I'm ready to loop the rest of the lighthouse. So I'll start on the left hand side. I'm going down through all these blue ones, pushing back on them, getting them behind my hook. I want the 2 bottom white bands to come out. And now I'm just going to work my way up. I just want to make sure as I'm placing my hook down through the middle of the pins that this triangle band is always behind my hook, and I'm always grabbing those bottom 2 bands and moving them ahead. So all of the bands that I'm using today are Rainbow Loom brand bands. And I think that these work well because they do slide against one another very well. And this pin is pretty full with the black on, but you're just going to place that right on the top. And you're going down through and getting all of these black bands to go behind your hook. And also you're going to get the yellow band that's doubled to go behind your hook, and you just want to pick up the 2 clear bands at the bottom. Just be very careful as you're pulling these out because this is tight and you don't want your bands to snap. And if you feel like this is a little bit tight still, what you can do is take your hook and just trace around this pin to loosen that up. Just be careful, don't put too much pressure on your hook. I have a metal hook, so I'm not as worried about breaking that, but if you have a plastic hook, you just want to be careful. And now I have these next 2 clear bands are going to move out and into the center. And again, I'm just going to loosen this up. And now I'm going to go back to the start once again, and this time I'm going to loop all of the bands in the right hand row. So it's going to be that same pattern. I'm pushing back on all of the upper blue bands, grabbing the bottom 2 white to come out and ahead. And now I'm just going to make sure that this triangle band is always behind my hook, and I'm just going to move the bands forward. And when we get to this black pin that has the black bands on it, again, it's going to be very full, so just put the white bands on top, and you're reaching down through all of these upper bands, getting them behind your hook, and you're just grabbing the 2 clear bands. Or if you're using black bands, you may have black. And now from here, you're taking the clear bands and moving them into that middle row. And so now I'm going to go back to the start once again, and this is my last row to do here in the center. So I'm pushing back on the blue bands, getting the white, and now I'm just going to work my way up this center row. Now these are going to be a little bit tighter where we have the cap bands doubled. You can feel that they're a little bit tighter to go down through. And now what we're going to do is take your hook and place it down through the middle. Make sure it goes through all of the bands, push it out to the side, and you're going to take another black band, pull it up through, and then get it back on your hook. Just make sure that these 2 bands stay on your hook because that's what's keeping all of the loose ends together. And now I'm just going to carefully pull this off of the loom. And it's definitely going to be tighter where you have the black bands. And it's going to be tighter up top because we have those doubled bands. And so now what you can do is either take one band on your hook, pull it through the other one, and pull tightly to make a slip knot. Or if you have a clip, you can use a clip. So I'm actually going to put a clip on just because I want to make sure that it's not going to come apart. And so here's what it looks like when it comes off of the loom. And you may have to just adjust it a little bit. You want your waves at the bottom. And then for the tower part, you just want that to be as straight as possible. And now we still have one more step to do with the black part here. What you're going to do is take your hook and put it through one end of the cap band. Remember, this was a triple band, so you want your hook to be going through all 3 of those bands. And now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to take this cap band and get my hook to go through it. So now you should have 6 bands on your hook. I'm going to take this last black band and I'm going to pull it through all of these bands. Just try not to hook any other bands if you can. And now put this other loose end back on. I'm going to pull one end through the other and pull it really, really tight. Make a slip knot. And then I'm going to go to the back side, and right around the part where the end of the yellow band is, I'm going to put my hook through to the front. I'm going to grab this black loop that I just made, and I'm just going to pull that through to the back. And then what I'm going to do is just go through some of these bands on the back, get my hook up through, and then pull this down through just to tuck that in. And then you can see what it looks like on the front here. And so here is the lighthouse. And I'll show you another one that I made with some different colors. So this one was black and white, and instead of doing 3 rows of each color, I only did 2 rows of each color. And you can see I chose a lighter blue for the ocean. So I hope everyone enjoyed this tutorial and has fun making their own lighthouse. You can always leave me comments on YouTube and Facebook, post pictures of your creations to my Facebook page, and please feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can stay up to date on all of my latest tutorials. You can also find me on Pinterest and Instagram, so please feel free to subscribe to those as well. Thanks for watching!